Jury absolutely got this right. The defense did an awesome job. The judge was very fair. I just can't understand why it took so long, especially when most all the prosecution witnesses even showed it was clearly self-defense. Interesting. She makes a lot of good comments. I think a lot of people feel that way. But Matthew, I want to point to the part where she talks about the judge. Your thoughts on the judge? He came under a lot of fire. He was a little off color at times, a little tone deaf. But I want to get your thoughts on whether he had an effect on this trial.
Yeah, judges will always inherently have some effect on the trial, right? There's something that's going to affect how the jury sees it to some extent. But I think that this judge, I sympathize with him because there's a lot of media attention, and I'm sure this is the first time in his career he's getting covered on TikTok, and he's getting that kind of feedback loop. So I'm sure it's new. But he's voiced it for the people. He said that he loves the media in his courtroom to allow the people to see what's going on. He wanted to ensure that everyone could see it. And I appreciate that candor.
Yeah, I appreciate it as well. And I think we didn't see any unrest. And I think part of that had to do with the fact that this was allowed to be on television and broadcast so folks could see what happened in that courtroom. And I think no matter how you feel about it, you saw that the way things went down, it appears to be a fair and just verdict. All right, let's go to our next comment. It comes from Christina Espitia. She says, this guy should have been found guilty. What in the actual heck is wrong here? This is not justice, but white privilege. He's not a medic, and he was pretending to be, so he could be out there shooting. Come on, people. All right, you know what's interesting about her comment? I think that, at least in part, was what this prosecution wanted this jury to believe. They made those intimations, but that just wasn't what the evidence showed.
Yeah, and you hit it right on the nail. I was just going to say, someone who says that clearly doesn't maybe know the full extent of the evidence. And the way that the evidence was portrayed, and also the dynamic scheme that occurs between attorneys and jury members and the prosecution, how they came about to elaborating on this evidence. So there's a lot more at play than what's a superficial look at this.
Yeah, no question. And, the prosecutor, they made promises. They talked about he was an active shooter. They talked about him hunting people. They talked about that he chased Rosenbaum, then gunned him down. And the evidence really just didn't go in that direction. And Matthew, when you make promises as an attorney, this jury, they want to see that stuff. Because I know I did, and I kept looking for it, and I'm still waiting to see actually all of it. I'm still waiting to see the active shooter, the hunting people. None of that really came to fruition. Let's go to our next comment. It's from Karma Clinton. She says, OMG, I can't believe it. Something is wrong with this country. Again, this verdict to me seems just. I want to get just an explanation from you. Was this about the evidence or was this about the prosecution?
It's a lot of both. Honestly, it's a lot of both. But the reason I'm honestly laughing is that I don't think there's anything wrong with this country when we look at this trial. I think maybe the verdict and things to be discussed about that. But when we look at the procedures here, I see us observing all the things that we needed to for voir dire, all the things that we needed to in correctly maybe screening the jury from some information, some overstep from the prosecution at times. But ultimately, I see a fair and equitable, procedure. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with this trial, but I think the outcome, I can understand why it's infuriating. And, that's a discussion that's absolutely to be had.
Yeah. Now, finally, from Jeanette Beekman, she responds to Karma's comment saying, there's a lot wrong with this country, but this verdict isn't one of them. And that echoes your comment right there. One of the things that has come out online, and we only have a couple of seconds here, but a lot of people concerned about the message that this verdict might send, that it's okay to go out to these protests and bring a gun and do this. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're a teenage male in this country, it is not okay to grab a rifle and shoot anyone. That's not the case. And I think that the way that the jury ruled is that maybe wasn't the case in Rittenhouse either.
Yeah, and they took a long time coming to this verdict, so I commend them for that. But hopefully that is not the message that was sent out. All right, Matthew Barhoma, I want to thank you so much for joining me this evening. Truly appreciate you being with us on this Friday. We'll see you again soon.